Okay, hi everyone. I'm Perry, and we're going to change tack slightly, and we're going to talk about mobile. So we've seen lots of websites, but the web is all about mobile, and mobile is all about location-based productivity. And these guys coming up next are solving one of the big inefficiencies in location-based services, which is about people finding cabs and drivers finding rides. And the good news for these guys is there's a proven correlation between the height of the founders and the success of internet startups. So let me introduce Rupert and Paul here, who are going to talk about Zapacab.
Thanks, Barry. Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It would be very difficult for me to stand up here and talk about our business model without giving you a real sense for who we are and why we're actually doing what we're doing. Both Rupert and myself were born in Africa, but we spent the majority of our lives building companies and gaining experience in the UK, in the Middle East, and the United States. Driven by a shared passion for Africa, both of us came back at the end of last year looking to play a small role in the astounding growth, change, and transformation that is currently taking place on the continent. So it's really within this much broader context that we started looking at the metered cab industry in South Africa. And we couldn't help but notice the astounding success of guys like Uber and Halo. And we wondered, why couldn't we do a similar thing here? So we started doing some digging and found three things. Number one, a market that was dated and inefficient. Number two, an untapped opportunity worth $7.6 billion. And number three, a realization that we needed to move bloody quickly. So in addition to the generic issues associated with the cab industry globally, there are certain issues that are specific to Africa and South Africa that make this business even more interesting. So the way the market is currently structured is that drivers pay cab companies per kilometer, whether they have a customer on board or not. So the implication of this is, let's say I order a cab. There may be a driver sitting right next to me, but the dispatch is actually incentivized to pull a cab from further away because they get paid the more kilometer the driver does. The second implication of this is that drivers are not incentivized to roam around for business, so it's really hard to actually find a cab. But even if there were loads of cabs in the streets, because of the safety issues facing us here in Africa, there isn't really a culture of going out and looking for cabs, especially in the evening when there is high cab usage. So all of these factors taken together mean that we're reliant on a dispatch which is completely broken. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why we founded Zapacab. Quite simply, Zapacab lets you order a cab at the touch of a button. For the customer, it's much more efficient because we connect them directly to the driver through a mobile device. It's simple and it's transparent because the customer can see exactly where their driver is in real time and how long he will take to get to them. Obviously, because it's a platform model, we have to deliver benefits on the other side as well. For the cab companies themselves, it massively lowers the cost associated with having a dispatch center and the complexity. And for the drivers, it's a complete no-brainer because they no longer have to drive and spend kilometers to acquire customers. Finally, for our third group here, for the premium vehicles, we're getting them to think about their business in a very different way. And in the same time, we're unlocking a completely new revenue stream by encouraging them to think about this fractional usage.
Let me take you through how it works from the customer's point of view. What you need to do is browse to Zapacab on your phone. From there, you use your cell number as a way of logging in, and you see the vehicles that we have available. You then choose the vehicle you want, which point the driver gets pinged on a device that we've placed in his car and begins moving towards you. On your device then, you can see this movement clearly on a map, and you can see its estimated time of arrival, keeping it simple and clean. As Paul's already pointed out, there's a massive possibility here with a market worth $7.6 billion. This is the forms of transport that we're targeting across all the cities in Africa which we could target. With a 5% urbanization growth rate, this market's just going to increase in size, giving us many possible markets to enter in the future. This is our competitive landscape. There are some local web-based incumbents in some of the markets, but what they're doing is just taking the demand and pushing it to the dispatch. So they're not overcoming the issues. There's no innovation here. There is the possible entry of international players like Uber and Halo, but what we say to this is, having the first mover advantage means that we've had massive inroads in terms of relationships with the key transport providers, and we can lock down the supply. The more vehicles we get our devices into, the greater the switching costs, because if competition does come along, they have to get cars to switch across to new systems and new devices.
The business model. So it's completely free for the customer, and we take our cut by charging a 20% fee to the fleet operators. The thing that's really attractive about this business is that it actually scales at a low cost. So if we look at break-even per vehicle in the metered cab sector, we're looking at 56 days for the vehicle to pay itself off. And in the premium sector, that number is 45 days for the vehicle to pay itself off. And if we take a blended average return per vehicle, you're looking at 7 times your money annually. So what have 3 guys managed to do in 3 very short months? Well, we've successfully built a product from scratch. We've had a live test, a beta test with consumers. We have agreements subject to successful testing with 2 cab companies which each have 20 vehicles. We're in discussions with the largest cab operator in Cape Town, and we have an agreement with 3 premium companies to do a trial with each one of them. So we're looking to raise $200,000. And to be very specific, this is going on towards one thing: driving supply liquidity. So by January, we hope to have 500 vehicles in Cape Town and Johannesburg, and this is the critical mass at which we believe demand will be optimally served. In January, we will look to do a Series A, in which we will raise additional capital to aggressively market the service to customers and scale to an additional 3 cities. This is us. We'd love to talk to investors who share our passion, who share our vision, and yeah, thank you so much for your time. Thank you.